Hello, Flex Fam. Welcome back to another episode of Flex in the City. I'm Bada.
And I'm Lisa, and this is episode 17.
Shit, I don't know.
This is the next episode.
Should we just jump right into it?
Let's do that. Let's do
Okay.
that. I have some quick fire questions for you
Okay.
this week, which I will be reading.
Let's do it.
All right. Would you rather
I just pulled out a tissue from
I was going to say, where's that coming from? I don't need to know.
Okay.
Have a third arm or a second head?
I would say a third arm.
Yeah, because you
I
can
think
hide
like
it.
two brains, like I feel like I would just be at war with myself. I'm
You'll
already at war. I don't need a second brain.
Like I'm already the
That'd be
Gemini
too
man.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, and the third arm, I think like you could hide it, like strap it down.
And then I always like with 3 kids, I have 3 arms now. Like how brilliant is that?
At home, it's da-da-da-da-da. You could be cooking dinner and carrying one kid at the same time. Always thinking. All right, would you rather always have to whisper or always have to shout?
I'm super loud and I come from a loud family. I'd rather shout all the time.
Yeah, same. Would you rather accidentally send a text to your boss meant for your partner, or to your partner meant, oh, this is obvious, or to your partner meant for your boss? Obviously.
Boss meant for my, partner meant for my boss.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, I should not be messaging anything inappropriate
I was
to
gonna
my
say,
boss, right? Like that's the hope.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why it's like it's unclear because they're like obviously, yeah. Well, it depends what kind of relationship you have with your boss.
Oh my god.
Would you rather be stuck in a room with your most annoying friend?
Okay.
I'm gonna just change to enemy because if it's your friend, then you wouldn't really.
Like a frenemy?
Yeah, like someone that you're okay with, but passive aggressively you hate.
Yeah.
Each other. It's mutual. To be stuck in a room with your most annoying frenemy or with 100 copies of yourself.
100 copies of myself. I don't know. I think that would be entertaining.
Would it though?
Maybe.
Think of how you speak to yourself sometimes, like when you're in your head.
Yeah, there'd be
Now imagine that everywhere.
Yeah, and then I
Out
could like
loud.
psychoanalyze the 100 that's right.
I couldn't. I'll do the frenemy. Question 5. Would you rather never use technology again or only be able to eat baby food for a year?
Never use technology? No, I'd rather eat baby food.
Of course.
I hate baby food, but I'd rather. I can
It's
just eat the applesauce all the time.
I was gonna say I would lose weight, so
That's where you're.
blended vegetables.
That's where you're.
Yeah, I'll do it.
That's where you went. Okay.
Would you rather be followed by a mariachi band everywhere you go, or always have a spotlight on you?
Spotlight, I'd be sweating all the time. I think I'll take the
Mariachi.
No, spotlight.
Coming a
Spotlight.
mile away.
Just have a fan on me all the time. I don't know.
Wear a hat.
Yeah.
Would you rather be followed by? Oh, I just read that one.
Yeah.
Would you rather have uncontrollable hiccups in every important meeting? Oh my god. Or trip and fall in every public place?
Is this like trip and fall one time and then I'm done?
No. Every public place. So if you're in the grocery store, you're gonna trip and fall. And then if you go to like the train station, you're gonna trip and fall. And if you're getting on the bus, you're gonna trip and fall. If you go to a restaurant, you're gonna trip and fall.
And the
And
hiccups are only in meetings.
Important meetings. Every important meeting.
Okay, give me the
Also,
hiccups.
the trip and fall is diabolical.
Although I could maybe get really good at the falling part and then be wearing
roll
like
out of it?
maybe or just have like gear on and I'm ready.
Let's say you never get hurt. So that's not a factor you have to worry about. But you fall like flat on the ground.
No, I'll take the hiccups.
Same.
Yeah.
Falling flat is wow.
Yeah.
All right, would you rather live in a world where everyone sings instead of talks? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
or where everyone is barefoot all the time?
No, sings. I always say I wish my life was a musical. So yeah, like we're literally walking down the street and I break out in song dance. I would love that.
Dancing like down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Would you rather wear a clown costume to every event, or only be able to wear pajamas in public?
Pajamas.
Same.
What do I want it like? No.
Also, pajama chic is a thing. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, you can make it work.
Yeah.
Clown costume. All right, and final question. Would you rather have the ability to teleport, but only to your least favorite places?
Or, give me the or.
Pausing for dramatic. Or be able to fly, but only 5 feet off the ground. Oh, well, that's okay. I'll take that. I don't want to be higher than that anyway.
I'll take the flying.
Me too, because you're high enough to like.
But that is like 5 feet off the ground means I can hover over traffic and like get to wherever I wanted, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
you
take
can
the
smack
flying.
people on the back of the head and keep moving.
Yeah.
And they can't.
Exactly.
Oh no, 5 feet is not that high.
I could do 5 feet over the ocean and get from like, you know, here to Australia.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long 5 feet off the ground.
There's no like where for me to like rest, right?
I was gonna say, it doesn't say that you have unlimited cardio capabilities.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
That was funny. So.
That was good. Nice little intro.
Yeah.
And how was your week?
Week was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Just the usual routine, kids, school, you know, busy with football and all of that.
Football weekends, man.
Oh my god, they like the games?
Do they go through the winter for you guys?
At some
our
point,
first winter semester.
I want to say that they stop maybe like around the Christmas holiday, and then they go into indoor training, and a lot of the times they'll have tournaments and games in the indoor.
In the indoor whatever
hall,
pitch or
hadits
whatever.
or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call them. So
That makes sense, because I think last year, because we joined at the beginning of the year,
yeah,
and it was like January, and they were having football training indoors.
inside, yeah.
But rugby, for the last couple practices, was still outdoors a couple of days. Like
Yeah, we still like they're still playing football outside, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about right now.
No, January.
January.
Yeah, they were playing outside, I remember, and I was like, dude, there was snow on the pitch like yesterday. They can't.
Yeah.
And they're like, practice is still on. I was like, thank you.
Is it mandatory for us to be there?
I know, I'd be like, yeah, we will not be
Yeah.
attending. I know it's crazy what they do to these kids, but when you think about it, I mean, we roughed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
When we really didn't rough it.
We might not have had
We didn't
no,
have
I think
major.
I had games on the weekend. Like volleyball games were always on the weekend. Maybe after school.
Yeah.
We'd
ours
go to
was
like a neighbor school, like
Exactly,
a neighbor school, and have a game there.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I
we had
think
tournaments on weekends.
Tournaments would be
Saturday.
on weekends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had those, and then, but we always got back at you know what, it just didn't seem as stressful because we never had crazy extreme weather patterns like
Maybe
here.
that's
So
what it is.
that's probably why it just doesn't seem as crazy.
But I remember I also played volleyball. Volleyball had its season and then it was done.
Yeah.
Like football, I feel like is year round because
because you
they go
are in like one
inside.
sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because here you don't have like a school team. I think we spoke about this before. It's not like how we had like a school team, so you could do like 3 sports a year.
That's true, and that's why it was like by season. I think
Yeah.
if you were doing it, like I know they have clubs here for volleyball. I'm gonna assume that they're doing it year round.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, it feels like a lifetime ago.
I
High school.
We did old.
I, speaking of high school, randomly got suggested probably not randomly because we have mutual people, but suggested to follow some like super ripped like fitness instructor / coach / motivational guy on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
probably 2 months ago or so, and I was like, oh, cool, let me see. And I clicked on, I was like, this guy has the same name as some guy I went to high school with. And then I was like,
No. What a small world.
And he's like pretty huge. I mean, he has like, I think several tens of thousands of followers now, but he also is, what's the word?
Influencer?
Yeah, like when you get, I can't think of the word, when like companies come at you to represent their brand.
Yeah.
He's a brand ambassador
Brand ambassador.
for like a bunch of these fitness brands, but also like has all these like motivational like quotes on his page, has a like home gym, he posts his workouts, and he's like crazy ripped, like crazy. And I was like, holy crap. Like
Wow.
this guy who was like kind of quiet, and he used to sing opera actually. That's what I remember. And he wanted to be an opera singer when we were in high school. He was in the choir, he had a beautiful voice, and we were all like, oh, he's gonna become an opera singer. And he always used to kind of dress dressy. Like, you know, everyone's in their jeans and stuff. He'd always wear these like proper like suit pants and like proper button down shirt. Like he was always just kind of like that guy. But
Put
cute.
Together.
I really hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. But he knows about this anyway, I think, from high school. He probably doesn't remember. But we actually used to call him BLT.
What did
because
that
his
stand?
name's Ben.
Okay.
And BLT stood for Ben's Luscious Tush. Because
Oh my God, Ben, you had a cute
he was a white boy, but he had ass. And then when he walked, it would be like boom diddy, boom diddy, boom diddy. Especially in those
That's what you
days.
guys were singing as you were walking by.
It had its own soundtrack. I'm telling you, and I was just like, damn. And he wasn't training, but definitely nothing like what he's doing now.
We need to send this to Ben.
I need to be like, yeah, I'll just like tag him on it and be like, hey, I don't know if he follows the Flex page. I think he does.
But you guys follow each other?
Yeah, so we follow each other, but I don't know if he follows the Flex page.
Okay.
But yeah, I might like DM him and be like,
he will be
hey,
following now.
you have a shout out in this week's episode.
Yeah.
And like piggyback on his following.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But anyway, he had this like round high. Also, it was like pointing upwards, but I remember it vividly. And the funny thing is, I was like, oh, he's so fit now in training all the time. Like, I wonder what the ass looks like.
Yeah.
So I was like,
trying to
I'm not gonna say on here because in case he does watch the episode.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna say it. It was better back then, but all of our asses were better back then. But I mean, maybe it's harder now. And he's very married, so respectfully to his wife, respectfully to my partner. But I already had this conversation with my man anyway. But yeah, it was just surreal because I was like, you know, we talked about how we still think of ourselves as like 20, like our brain is still 20.
Right.
And somewhere in our brain, we're like, yeah, I'm still that girl. And then the knees remind us we're not. But like, it was funny because I was like looking at him and being like, oh, he's changed so much. And he's like, and seeing this person that I only knew like from like 6th grade to 12th grade as like this young man and like in a certain context, seeing him so changed, I was just like, wow, and he looks like much older and he looks like mature and he's changed in this way. And I was like, so have you, bitch?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Why can't my brain see
Catch
that
up
about
to
myself?
that.
And I was like, holy crap, like I have. And I just think it's weird how your brain like tricks you. Because I can look at old photos and be like, oh yeah, I was a bit younger there. Yeah. Bitch, no, you were much younger there. You were 25 years younger there. You look different. You were probably 25 kilos smaller there.
God.
Like,
but it doesn't feel that way. Like when you even in terms of time, because time is flying by so fast. So you can look at those old photos and be like, oh, that was just yesterday. But it was like 20 years ago. Like it's just
exactly.
I think it's that feeling like I don't know if it's a nostalgic or if it's whatever it is. I don't know.
Memory, because the memory's right here.
I would rather hold on to that like where I still feel young versus feeling like I'm 100 years old.
Oh yeah, for
know?
sure. Because I've had moments where I felt 100 years old.
Yeah.
The Janet concert was one, and
the knees were on fire.
I need to look that up. I forgot to look it up. Hot knees must be a thing.
We need to Google that.
I will, or if you guys know anything about it, let us know.
Yeah.
Fill me in because I'm concerned. But yeah,
put in the comments below.
I've had those moments where I'm like, oh my god, I felt 100 just then. Or when you speak to younger people.
Yeah.
And they're not outright, but you're just like, wow, yeah, this is totally different. Like when we went to drinks with your, not
My
drinks, when we went to
ex-colleagues.
dinner with your ex-colleagues
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
Also,
Did you
I
feel
finally
it?
got invited. Can we just note, it's episode 17, I think we said. I finally got invited
And
to
yet,
dinner with
she
her
has
friends.
not invited me anywhere with her people.
Where have I gone? Let's talk about that. Where have I gone myself?
I don't know.
Exactly. I haven't gone anywhere. That's why you haven't been invited.
Oktoberfest?
I went one time for 2 hours with my family. Yeah. I know you're not talking after your Oktoberfest that you just showed me photos from. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
so
anyway,
you're
yeah, we
saying
had
being around them and them being younger, they're like 10 years younger than us.
yeah, which theoretically you're like that's not that big of a 30, 40. That's not much big of a gap. But then like especially with like quite like educated, progressive thinking younger people, they just think in such a different way than we do because they've been exposed to things on a level that we started at, like maybe in our younger teens, and they just like came out the gate running, and they're like, oh, like it was incredible to listen to one of your friends talk like at length, but really fascinatingly about his like project and his work that he's doing.
His startup, yeah.
His passion was so like infectious. I was like, I want to start something. Like
Man. At his age, I was like breastfeeding. That's what I was doing at his age.
How old is he?
I think he's 31, 32.
Baby.
His baby.
A baby.
Like, and I really like can't like even I think
I
because I was
his age
in
too.
the middle of like this having kids, like you have the mom brain, like even at that time I could not hold the full conversation like to that extent.
Yeah, no.
You know, I couldn't even like form words. It was just like caveman, like food, table,
food,
must
water,
eat.
sleep.
Yeah, like that's it.
That was it.
And they were like so eloquent and so, you know.
Yeah, like just well versed,
Yeah.
and like he's created this whole thing that's like genius, and
So
he
funny.
was just so animated, and the young lady as well. Like she was just so like people. They're just. I think they have that generation has as much as we clown Gen is it Z.
Yeah.
As much as we clown them and we're like they don't have like the work ethic and like the wherewithal to like stick it out and all that. I'm like, you know what though? There's something to be said about how they're like, no, that's not for me. This is what I like.
Yeah.
This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to pursue, and I'm going to make it work regardless. Like
they have. I think with regards to what our topic is today, it doesn't apply to them.
no, that segue. Okay, I wasn't even planning.
When you said like they know what they like that, and
Right, what to say no? I completely didn't
they
even catch
know when
that.
to say no, which is what we want to talk about today, which is basically the power of saying no.
No.
You know, like we as humans spend so much, like we overcommit to everything, and we spend so much time and energy and even our well-being sacrificing our own happiness to please others, you know? And it's just I heard a statistic yesterday.
You were listening.
I was listening to a
motivational
podcast yesterday,
Yeah.
and in the podcast, he shared some statistics where it says almost 50% of people feel like they are people pleasers.
Yeah.
That's almost half of the entire population that falls into that category, and a majority of them are women.
Yeah, I can
And
believe that.
when
I can believe
we're
that. And that's
talking
people
about-
who can identify it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people more than that even.
Of course.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the power of saying no, like there's so many layers to that, which is like, you know, not knowing how to set boundaries, people pleasing. What else? Like what else goes into that?
I think not even knowing who you are, so
Yeah.
not necessarily knowing what you want. So you can't set a boundary because you actually don't know.
What your values are,
Exactly.
like what's important to you. You
Exactly.
don't even know you as a person. Like you can't look at yourself and say 5 nice things about yourself, you know?
Yeah, 5 is a lot.
But that's the thing is like people who people please are willing to spend more time making sure others are happy at the expense of their own happiness.
Yeah.
And people who people please are disconnected from themselves. And I think with regards to the power of saying no, I think once we eliminate the people pleasing part,
yeah,
it'll get even easier.
And I think like part of why we seek the people pleasing so much, and I'm sure there's a lot of like psychology based reasons and how we're raised, etc. But like I can conjecture, I guess, that you're so insecure, maybe not so, but on some level insecure with the perception that that person or people might already hold of you, that you're like, I have to perpetuate whatever it is that I've been showing them that I am. I have to keep up the ruse, you know, to make sure that like they don't see that I'm someone who gets tired. They don't see that I'm someone who just doesn't want to hang out all the time. They don't see that I'm reclusive. They don't see that I'm actually an introvert, you know?
Which then perfectionism is at play then too. Like there's a lot of us that have this where we feel like we have to be perfect all the time.
Or at least perceived.
And perceived as perfect and not really show our true colors or show, you know, what we truly are because we're afraid of rejection.
Or judgment.
And
I think it's like double-sided because the reaction can be exactly the same, but it could be the fact that you want to be perfect so much that you're like, I always want to be there for my friends. I always want to show up for everything. I always want to like bring the perfect gift and da-da-da-da-da. So you react in that way of not saying no. Whereas by the same token, on the other side of the coin, you could be like, I'm such a mess. I'm such a fuck up. I don't want anyone to know that. So I have to try extra hard to be there for everyone so that it distracts from the fact that, right? So like you could be at either extreme, yet the expression of those two extremes could be the same. That's the expression of it, but when you come back to the root of it, it's the same. You don't know yourself, you're not being true to yourself, and you're not secure with yourself.
I found it very interesting also that a lot of people who are people pleasing want to feel useful to others because they get a sense of validation when they are needed or people need them for something. And so when you're not people pleasing, you're not getting that fix. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
That's a really good point. There's a friend of mine who is a very self-diagnosed people pleaser, and she's done a lot of work actually to
get out of that.
To try and overcome that because she can see the ways in which it's been destructive to her relationships and her own psyche. And she says the same thing. She's like, I derive like a feeling from helping other people resolve their problems because I have such a hard time dealing with and facing and resolving my own. And not in that respect, but in this respect that I'm going to say, she's very much like you. She's very much about, I'm not going to talk about my problems. I'm not going to share about what I'm going through. Tell me about you. Best listener in the world. Great at advice, like knows stuff and what to say, like really avails herself, but never reveals herself. So, Do you? No pressure.
Okay, so first of all, I can say that I definitely recognize that I'm a people pleaser. And it's definitely something that I'm working on. And what with the whole needed thing, I think.
Can I just pause for a second and interrupt you? I think, by the way, in the short time we've been hanging out and recording and doing this podcast, I can already see the work that you're doing.
Really?
With that, yes. Where you have set really clear-cut boundaries and you said, this is not something that's conducive to me or my peace of mind.
Really?
And I'm going to move away from it. Yeah. Just a side note, but continue.
It's so nice.
Credit where credit is due.
I love that you recognize that because it is something that I've had to work on so much, and it's something that I know that is still a work in progress. But yeah, I always felt like I always need to feel needed, and I think because I felt like an outsider for so long, I decided to take on okay, if I'm an outsider and I can't fit in, let me see if I can get people to come to me, then they'll need me in some way, you know? So whereas I was always the friend that people would come to talk to, I may not have been the first person they would call when they want to hang out or socialize.
Right.
But the minute they're having a shit day, I was on speed dial and I would
Because you come through with the advice and the listening. Like, it would just be like, she's gonna tell me the right thing to do most times, and she's actually gonna listen.
Yeah.
Which is
But
hard.
it is also exhausting because because like I'm just thinking of a scenario where, for example, I'm at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get a phone call, my friend needs me, and I would step away from work to go be with that friend. But then
I've done that before.
And then my friend, you know, I'll be there for my friend, I'll support my friend, and then what happens is I completely disregarded work. Or say if my friend was having an issue and I dropped everything to do with the kids and whatever, and I would go and be with that friend.
Yeah.
Like, you come home, the laundry hasn't been done, the kids' homework, you know.
Yeah.
You know, everything's piled up. You know, I've completely neglected my husband and his needs and all of that. And so like it is exhausting, and then I end up being mad at myself, which then makes me angry at my friend and almost resentful. So it's always like this weird, but the minute they call again and say I need you, like I would run.
Would you ever tell that friend in that scenario about what you have going on?
No. Or I would never say anything. I'd always like, even if they would say, and that was on the rare occasion where they'd say, I feel bad that you're having to leave your family.
Right, yeah.
Oh, it's okay, you know, Khalid's got it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd
play it off as if it's okay. Like, it just never felt like they were in need. Like, it almost felt like I was being selfish if I told them, okay, I'm here for you, but you need to know I also have a life. And it just didn't feel like the right time. But I now know, like, it was just a constant vicious cycle where I would be so angry, and then I'd get angry with them, and then, you know, and then you got to take it out. You got to take that anger out, so you'd be frustrated with your kids. You'd be frustrated with your partner, like
the people around you.
You can't direct it towards who you're really frustrated at because they're in a time.
They're going through it, you know? Right.
So,
oh man, that's difficult. What have you ever had an experience or scenario where the friend that has asked for your help has sort of taken you away from your own needs, like you just said, and you've confronted them and been like, I really can't, or even after the fact said, you know what, I came to you in that time of need and it really kind of fucked my shit up. So
I have not had that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wish I had. Like, there's moments now where I can look back at those times and say, if I was in the state of mind that I am in now, I would have said those things.
Right.
I mean,
In
definitely
hindsight.
But also because I've been working on myself, because I would not have called myself a people pleaser a year ago.
Really?
Yeah, I would not have said. I would have just been like, yeah, I'm somebody that's
I'm
always
just really nice.
I'm just really nice. I'm really supportive,
but
I'm always there for my friends, you know. But now that I think about it, like, I was a people pleaser. I feel like people pleasers have like a little bit of selfishness about it, because they're like, there's like this gratification.
I was gonna say
that you
you're
get.
feeding off of
that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, but I remember now, like, whenever I would be there for a friend, I was always like, it wasn't not always, but in a lot of instances, it was like I was going there to support them, but I was like, ugh.
Like it's a labor.
Yeah.
Almost.
It wasn't coming from a sincere, genuine place, because I think I had gotten to a point where it was like, everyone else's needs are so much more important, and I'm way down here, and no one's ever asking about me. But at the same time, I'm never volunteering that information. Like, how, and I can have that argument with you, like you can tell me I never reveal anything and I can say, well, you never asked, and you can say, but you never say anything, you know, like it's
we
you
can
know,
push and pull
we
all
can
day
push and
about
pull,
it, but
but-
yeah, I mean,
so
I think that and with the example you just gave of both of us, I think having that sort of honesty as well, not just with yourself and knowing who you are, as we've already said, but also having that type of honesty with the people around you to be able to say, like, girl, I really can't right now. I feel for you, but, and so me being able to respect that and saying, okay,
Yeah.
I totally understand, like, you know, or vice versa, but also being able to have that conversation of, you know what, like me saying, you never share anything, and you being like, well, you never ask, and mutually being able to respect that feedback to say, okay, the reason that our communication is the way it is the fault is twofold. Like we're both not, so both of us can meet in the middle. Both of us can change our behavior in a way that is beneficial to both of us. And that's why I asked you if you ever had that experience where you actually confronted someone.
No.
And how did they respond?
No.
I'm trying to think if
Have
I
you?
have. I've confronted.
Because you're very good at setting your boundaries and saying no. So like, I don't imagine you're a people pleaser.
I'm not, but my problem is different in that if I know that I have obligations, sometimes family obligations, whatever, or, you know, listen, this is something that I have to compromise for someone that I love or what have you. My issue is that I'll say yes. It was like a yeah, but no. Like it's like a yes, I will do it, but I'm not gonna like it, and you're gonna know I don't like it. So mine is in a different way. I don't want necessarily to please people. I will do it out of obligation, but at the same time, I'm gonna let you know that I'm not happy about it. Which is the same as not doing it, because you're hurting the people that it's important to.
But there's also a level of raw honesty there. Wouldn't you rather have that than me who says, yeah, I'll come and help you, but I really don't want to do it?
I don't know if I would rather one or the other.
Pretending to put a smile? I don't know.
What I see in your scenario, in your way of it, is that at least, in your way of it is that at least there's an opportunity for you even afterwards to come back to the situation and say, hey, I actually wasn't honest about how I really felt and what I was going through. There's an opportunity for correction where everyone involved is ideally still calm. Whereas in my scenario, I've already put like the passive aggression out there from the get-go. I should have just, the raw honesty should have been at the beginning, where I'm just like, nah, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to be happy about it, and I'm going to have a shit attitude. Don't make me do it.
Okay.
Rather than doing that, I guilt trip the person into knowing that I'm going to do it with like reluctance and a bad attitude. So there's already, even if I'm doing something, it's received with bitterness. It's not received
wholeheartedly.
Exactly. And it's not sent in that way either. So everyone already is on a bad footing. And if at the end of it, I'm like, let's have the talk where I tell you that I really didn't want to do it.
Like, I already know.
Bitch, I know! You made it clear. Like, you know what I mean?
Let's not beat a dead horse. Like, you already made it very obvious.
Everyone's guard is already up. And then it makes it harder for there to be any conversation to correct it. One of the things that changed my perspective, and I just said this to you a little bit before, on the whole saying no thing is when I did used to say no, the guilt trip scenario aside, passive aggression aside, there would be times, and even now a lot of times, not so much right now, where I would say no, because lists,
give 1,000
excuses, reasons, justifications, and there'd be times where I'd actually, before I make the call, be like, okay, so what am I gonna say? Okay, so I'm gonna get out of it, and I'm gonna say like right? And a friend of mine, Flo, we met in Sydney. She used to live downstairs from me. Amazing, great gal. And she one day said something life-changing to me. She said, no is a complete sentence.
I love that.
Like, and I was just like,
so you should be able to just say no.
It should be enough. Yeah, it is a complete sentence. You do not need to explain yourself to anybody. You don't need to justify your right to say no.
Yeah.
If it's a decision or a question about you and your presence or your involvement, you can just say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same way when you say yes, you don't provide reasoning as to why you've agreed to do something. You're not like, yes, I'll do it. And you know why I'll do it? Because I feel compelled to be a part of this experience. And I think that my presence would be necessary. Nah, people take the yes as yes.
Oh,
In equal measure, they should take the no as no.
But there's so much guilt that comes with the no.
There's so much. The funniest part is there's also a lot of expectation that comes with it. Because the few times I've said no, I've been like, no.
And then they're waiting. Like,
literally, there's like silence. And they're like,
why?
And you're like, okay, thanks. Like, everyone expects that you're going to have to justify your right to say no. Right. Myself included. But there's just such a relief. Even when I say it, I'm like, I remember the relief that I've had when I'm just playing nah.
Yeah.
Have you seen Rebel Ridge?
No.
Oh my God, you need to see
so
it.
Many series you talk about that.
No, this is just one movie. The movie is
it's a movie. Okay.
But it's on Netflix and Rebel Ridge.
Okay.
And I watch it. With this guy called Aaron Pierre, British actor, acting as American, sickening body. Like, we have the biggest crushes on him in this household. Like, blue eyes, like, just crazy, like, amazing.
Okay.
He is just this badass in the movie. I won't go into it too much, but there's these racist people in the movie. So of course you're just like, I just want him to destroy everybody involved. And he does these like jujitsu like rolls and killing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a scene where he's on the phone with one of the guys who's like, you need to just get out of this town and stop causing problems and da-da-da. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I thought, let me just leave well enough alone. Let me just da-da-da. And the guy on the other line's like, yeah, you should. And he's in the middle of the sentence and he goes, then I said, nah.
I love it.
That was it. Just the way he said it, the guy's like on the other line is like, oh, shit. And it's about to rain down in the smack on all of them. And just the way he says the nah is, first of all,
so
it's
powerful.
Sexy as hell, but it's so relaxed. And he's just like, he doesn't have to explain himself. You know what you did. You know the circumstances.
Yeah.
It's like, just no. I'm not going to walk away, and you know why. The end of the conversation. You know what's coming. And I was like, there's such power in just being like, no. And I was like, I'm going to start saying it like that. So like, nah.
So just saying no, though,
Mhm.
you have definitely, that's going to test your relationships.
Massively.
Whereas I think it's such a good way to set those boundaries, healthy boundaries. It's healthy for you and healthy to set those boundaries as well for like your relationships, the ones that are truly going to understand that. I would hope the keepers won't even question. They won't even ask.
And if
like
they
you say no,
the question would be like,
are you
I'm so
okay?
sorry,
Or
what's going on?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
what's going on?
do you need something right now?
I
like,
got you. Yeah.
We normally see you all the time and you're saying no to this social outing or to this whatever, and now you're saying like, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
But then it's also a good practice to filter out all the ones that aren't gonna.
It's a really good way to like, it's like a sieve. You know, just everything that's not worth keeping will just kind of fall through, and the people that are really worth something, the real like nuggets will stay there, or at least question you and be like, okay, well, what's happening? What's going on? Or even be honest with you and be like, dude, I felt like kind of hurt that you said no to me that time. Like, damn, like that's so unlike you. Like, and then it gives you an opportunity to have that honest conversation. So I think, you know, there's never a wrong way to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You also find out what your boundaries are, because sometimes if you don't practice setting them, you're just like, oh, I don't know if that's something that I would do. I don't know if I could stand up for myself when I'm going through shit and someone is like, no, I need you to do this. Like, I don't know. Like, what is my boundary? Who am I when it comes to respecting what's going on in my life? So it forces you to learn yourself.
It's not comfortable. Like this topic is not an easy topic. It's not it's not meant to be comfortable at all. But I think it's so essential to be able to live like a healthy life.
Yeah.
Like a happy one.
A happy one where you are in symbiosis with your own self.
Yeah.
And like that question we had in the quickfire where like, would you be in a room with 100 versions of yourself? And like, for me, I'm just like, I know what my inner monologue is like. I know how I talk to myself. I know all of my different moods. I know like based on what time of the month it is, what madness is going on in there. Hell no, 100? Like, give me the enemy anytime. That's someone that I know exactly how to deal with. But like myself, I only know myself well enough to know how like imbalanced I could possibly be if I was 100 versions.
Oh my god. I love it.
But it's really hard, like spending time with yourself. We harp on that quite a bit, like self-dating, getting to know yourself, spending that time that's sometimes uncomfortable at lunch with yourself or just in silence with yourself, no phone or like
and saying no is really a form of self-care because you really are then, and we said this word, I think we should count how many times we've said boundaries in this, but whatever. Yeah. Like you're really respecting your boundaries, you're respecting your, what's important to you. You're not putting yourself in situations that make you anxious, that make you overwhelmed, and that also in a sense has an effect on your mental health. When you are able to say no and it's a hard no, like there's a sense of relief,
So good.
It feels so good because you stuck true to what was important to you, and you're not going to put yourself in any situation that's going to really make you second guess that.
Yeah. I think that your mind, your psyche, like thanks you in kind, because it's just like, oh, thank you for like speaking for me and showing up for me. Yeah. Okay, totally hypothetical. Say there's a friend of yours who's having an extramarital affair.
Okay.
And you're friends with her, you know her husband, but you're friends with her, and obviously like that's their issue. You're not kind of getting involved at all. And she's like, listen, I'm really stressed out. Like my side guy, I think has like another bitch on the other side. And I'm like really jealous and like, I'm just really stressed out about it and I need to talk to you about it. And you've already expressed to her, at the very least, you're just like, listen, I'm not on board with what you're doing. I'm not gonna like judge you. I'm not going to support you either. I know you're a man, so keep me out of it, but I'm just letting you know that's my position. So don't ask me to lie for you, whatever. But now she's like, I'm really stressed out because like I'm hurting really bad. Like I didn't expect to fall in love with this man, and I'm like in love with him, and I think he's got another bitch, and I just like, and she's like, I just need you as my friend. What do you do in a situation where the conflict might not necessarily be your boundary? Well, it is a boundary of sorts, but not necessarily your availability, but more.
Okay, I can tell you that the old me, and there's like a pre-coaching Raga, and then there's a milestone. Like the old me would have definitely been there and like listened to her, and regardless of what was going on, how I feel, I would have been there. But I would say now, because first of all, what she's doing with this other man goes against my values. So I can't, I feel like with relationships, friendships, like I'm not saying you have to agree on everything.
And you won't. Yeah.
You won't, but there are maybe some certain values that we're not going to have in common with each other that could be a turning point in our relationship.
Right.
So in that case, like I can't in good faith support her. Unless the husband is an asshole. Like, I don't know. Like, if we're doing a scenario where her husband is an asshole and he beats her. And
no, that's not the scenario.
That's not the scenario.
Husband
the scenario
is
an angel
and he's like always telling you, man, I'm so in love with your friend. She's amazing. And you're like, oh, is she?
I don't think I could. I honestly don't think I could be there for her. Could you? I feel like you've been in that scenario.
So it's not exactly that. I mean, it wasn't a marriage. It was relationships.
Yeah.
Between a friend of mine, and she had someone on the side, and she was just like, just whatever you do, don't tell. And I was like, it's not your
place to tell, which I know, like, I wouldn't do that either, but it's
right.
also
But I was
weird
like,
to
it's
be
also
in
not
that.
my place to like defend it or protect it or lie. Definitely, I'm not going to lie or involve myself in it.
Yeah.
Further than
and don't use me, like
exactly,
don't say
like,
I'm with Rada.
Literally what I said. I was like, you are never at my house, and if he calls me to ask where you are, I will say you're not with me. So better you pick somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think she had contemplated. Actually, I think they weren't married at that point. It started before they were married.
Shit.
And they were married, and she said, like, I made a mistake. Like, so she contemplated ending the marriage, and she's like, I just, I'm in love with this person, but now I don't know if I end my marriage, will he be there?
Right.
And I was like, frankly, the dilemma you're having is self-caused. I mean, you don't have trust in this man because he's with you in an untrustworthy scenario.
Yeah.
He's with you in a situation where he's willing to be this other guy. He knows that you're, in a relationship. So who's to say that he doesn't have those values of monogamy at all?
Yeah.
So of course you're going to be like, ugh. And at the same time, you're hurt because you can't make a decision. Yeah. You're straddling the fence. That friendship ended. Skipping to the end of the book. That friendship ended because...
Yeah, so you couldn't be, you can't support that.
Which is what I said. And I was like, I can't, like, and she's like, you're meant to be my friend. You're meant to support me. I said, listen, I will support you through, like, emotional hurt or difficulty that you're not bringing on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best thing I can do for you is advise you only within the confines of my own values. Yeah. I can't advise you on something that I wouldn't do.
Yeah. So
maybe you have another friend for that, but this is the best that I can do for you. Does it mean that I write you off as a person? Absolutely not. I'm here for you, but this situation, you need to sort it out.
Without me.
Yeah, because the only help I can give is what I've told you already.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. Oddly enough, 7 years later, so we stopped talking for that period of time. And 7 years later, she got back in touch with me, actually via Facebook, never used, and was like, thank you so much. It took me a long time. I was like, that bitch, 7 years. It took me a long time to understand what you had said to me back then. And for me to be able to make a decision and stand up with myself. She said, I was just so afraid of what my husband would think of me.
Yeah.
And my family would think of me if I left. And also, like, what would happen if I left for this guy and, next thing you know, he drops me like a bad habit. So I said, well, what gave
happened?
You the epiphany?
Yeah.
And she said, the guy, side dish, side salad, he ended up dumping her for the person that she assumed he was with. So he ended up dumping her, was with another woman that he eventually married. So it basically like put a nail in that as an opportunity for her at all. And I don't know the reasons behind it. I didn't ask, but her marriage ended up ending as well. And I think it was the husband that ended it. I don't know if he found out or if she told him, but she just said, I needed to lose everything for her to then be able to sit in basically the silence of her own decisions. Yeah. And it took a lot of time. And sometimes if you don't do the work on your own circumstances, life can force you into an environment where you don't have any other choice but to listen.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
And I feel so strongly when we talk about like the universe and the energy and all of that. And like, if you're not willing to take a decision or do something for yourself, like the universe will do that.
It's like, I got this.
This.
So if you're not going to pick here, this is what you're going to get.
This is what's going to happen.
And then you have to go through that.
I so strongly believe in that.
So
throughout all of that, like you were probably the only friend who told it like it is to her.
Oh, there was two of us.
Okay, so you guys kept
She's
it,
also an ex-friend. No, she's my
So-
friend, but she's an ex-friend to that
but
girl.
you
But
stayed true to you,
Yeah.
and you kept it real with her,
yeah.
and it's your words that resonated with her years later.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, and sometimes it's like that. It's so hard to like hear, sense. It's like, honestly, when you tell someone that their man is cheating, like, and it doesn't even matter how detailed or how much proof you have.
Yeah.
Like, you have a proof of a dude literally like inside of somebody else, and you're like, this is your man, is it not? And
No,
she's like,
no.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Denial.
That shape up is different. Like, until they are ready themselves to come to that juncture of accepting and realizing the truth, there's nothing you can say. You can say and put anything in front of them. None of it will make sense until they themselves are ready to come to that realization.
Yeah. I think with regards to relationships, there's something to be said also about women and mothers and what that looks like how that setting those boundaries can even get more difficult, especially when you start having, mommy friends who are going through the same thing as you. How do you set those boundaries then? Because obviously, you're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like, what do you do in that scenario where a mom friend calls you and says, I'm really struggling, I need you?
And it gets
How
so
do
much
you-
harder because you're like, oh, I know that struggle.
Yeah.
Like when a lot of times when they explain something, you'll be like, fuck, I know how that feels.
Yeah.
Or it might be that I'm going through that same thing right now,
Yeah.
and she's telling me about it. And so it makes it that much harder to be like, no.
So,
nah.
yeah, and then that also goes back to like my issue with boundaries. Like you said, we're going through the same thing,
Yeah.
but every person handles the same scenario differently.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
and there's a reason for why she's calling you. Maybe she feels like you've got your shit together.
Yeah. Because
So
maybe that's how you're carrying it.
maybe that's how you're carrying it, but are you carrying it that way because of the whole perfectionism like persona and you don't want anyone to know that you're struggling?
Right.
Or are you like me, you don't let anyone in?
Yeah. Or you're not at the stage
Or
yet where
not-
you're ready to talk about it. You're just at a different place in your process.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm ready to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's hard. How do you
broach that then? Like, how do you tell her, no, I can't be there for you?
Because
Call
also
somebody else.
yeah,
Bitch, I got no time for you.
forward her like therapist numbers
Yeah.
and then block her. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But yeah, like it's hard also because you're like, I can say no to her, yes, but I also understand what it's like, and I know that at some point I might want to speak about it as well.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to reach out to her and be like, hey, like that thing that you talked about, I'm actually going through it. Which has a selfish element to it, but I think it's also understanding that like friendship is give and take. But if you don't have the bandwidth for it, you just don't have it. And it's a difficult conversation because now you can go and support your friend and amidst it say, hey, I'm here for you, but just please understand, like, I'm going through some shit too. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I'm also, and it might be that they respect that and say, okay, well, I'm not gonna like lay it all on you. There's also the possibility that they might be like, oh, so I call you here to talk about my shit.
And we're talking about your shit.
And it's back to you, you know? So especially when someone is stressed or going through something, you're obviously gonna be a little bit heightened emotionally. So I think it's riskier. But ultimately it comes down, you play it by ear, it comes down to the friendship, I think. You can have a group of 5 friends and you're all girlfriends with each other, but your relationship with each one of those people is different because they're individuals, so are you. How you relate to each other is on the basis of their character, their abilities, what they can withstand, what they bring to the friendship, and that works for you guys. And it's the same way I can have like 5 different groups of friends, and I'm like, I can't hang out with none of y'all together because you guys will hate each other.
Yeah.
You guys will beat each other, and you get along with all of them, but you can see how different their personalities
would be very different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this person who would kill this person, somehow you can relate to both of them very well. They can't relate to each other because you have a way of nurturing that friendship that works for the individual. So I think that one is more of a play it by ear, and that's why it's so important to also nurture those relationships, especially when you're in motherhood, especially when you need support, especially when you're alone in a foreign country. I think it's important because the kind of connections that you can have with other women it's so important.
So
that community
healthy.
of women
Yeah.
is so important.
You need that sisterhood.
It's important. Yeah, sisterhood is really important.
Do you feel
out of the traveling pin?
Do you feel like saying no and setting those boundaries changes as you get older?
1000%. Assuming you're actually maturing as a human being
and learning,
hopefully evolving and not
learning
devolving,
to set those.
It's going to change. I mean, even if you are devolving, it's going to change. It's going to get worse. But I think if you are developing as a human, you're developing in your relationship with yourself. You're becoming more
in tune.
Exactly.
With who
you're
you
going
are.
to be more discerning with how much of yourself you give to each other, but also how much you take on. Because there is a level of taking on someone else's. I mean, it's a transfer of energy. When someone kind of offloads, you kind of carry that burden for them. A lot of the energy resides with you. So you get better at weighing what your capacity is, and also your capacity could change. So you could be 30 years old and just going through it, all of it, you know, and you're just like, I have nothing to give to anybody. And then finally, all your shit just sorts itself out. Shit sorts itself out. It's tricky.
Shit sorts itself.
Shit sorts itself out by the time you're 40, and you're like, yeah, I'm really good at dealing with sort of the stuff I have to do now. I have bandwidth. Like, give it to me. You can also learn and actually actively undertake measures to become better at it. You can go to a holistic coach, a holistic health coach. You can help yourself by meditating, learning more about yourself.
Saying mantras, like saying things like, I am enough, you know, I am worthy, just like saying these different mantras over and over again to like truly start to
reinforce it. You can
getting to know yourself, like literally there's like a list of 5 or 6 questions you can ask yourself to get to know who you are again. Because I think I mentioned in the beginning, like people who people please and who have no boundaries are disconnected with themselves. So even just like, you know, simply asking yourself, like, what are 5 things you like about yourself? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie? Like, what's your
basically like, those first 8 questions you'd ask anyone.
Yeah. So like just kind of like getting to know who you are, and even honestly, like figuring out what your values are. Like we talk about values, but not all of us know what our real values are, and like just writing them down, and those become kind of like your anchors in life, you know, like, so if someone comes along and invites you to a social gathering that's, you know, I don't know,
a swingers
party, and that just doesn't sit well with you, you go to your values and not
no swingers party here.
Monogamous for life, like that's not gonna fly. And
but no judgment, enjoy.
No judgment, you know, but
I don't know where swingers party came from.
I don't know, but I was thinking menage, like an orgy.
Right, exactly. So we're on the same page.
But you said you finished the sentence for me, thank you. I was trying to.
No, I look like the.
I'm admitting that that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
you know.
And those are situations where sometimes if you don't know your values, you don't know them until you're faced with a situation that forces you to establish it. Yeah. You know, and then you're like, you know, kind of you're not comfortable with it, but you're like, you're kind of having that sort of questioning. Not that you're questioning attending a swingers party, but you're questioning how to explain that and you're like, well, how do I? And it makes establishing the no even that harder. Whereas if you're just like, nah, I'm not into that. But Godspeed, be safe, have fun.
I think it's so important to really get into the habit of practicing that, saying no, setting your boundaries. And there's a difference between people pleasing and doing acts of service or acts of kindness. The people pleasing comes with an element of you're people pleasing, but you're like you're doing it at the expense of your own happiness.
Exactly.
And I think it's important for us to be able to take every situation and know the difference between, am I people pleasing or am I really genuinely wanting to do this out of the kindness of my own heart, you know?
Right.
And then from there you can start to evaluate like why is this causing, if it's people pleasing, why is this causing internal, turmoil, like inside of me? Like, why do I feel off? Why does it not sit well with me? And then
that's it, because like the acts of service is a love language.
So love language,
the love language means you're doing something because it also brings you that joy.
Yeah.
So if something's not sitting well with you, it's likely that you're giving something of yourself that you don't really have to give, or you're giving something at the expense, as you put it, of yourself.
Yeah. You have been in these scenarios for the last however many years. It's become habitual, and it's like your body automatically says yes, even though you know it's not.
Yeah.
And your body actually might not have been sending you signals in the past, but now it is. So when you're feeling that discomfort, like that's your body telling you, listen to me. This is not something that you want to. This is not a situation you want to put yourself in. Listen to me. And try and sit in that and understand why, and then do something about it. And really, like, nothing's gonna happen overnight. Like, if you really know that you're a people pleaser already, like, chapeau, because you're aware of it at least.
Yeah.
And now comes putting in the work. And that takes consistency. That takes, like we said, like meditation, journaling, writing down your values, understanding who you are, where you come from,
why you feel a certain way, maybe exploring certain things that might not be very comfortable to answer that question of why you've developed that people pleasing.
Just like even in small scenarios, practice saying no. Just say no, and then
I just picture like you go to get gelato. Would you like no?
Like I said no.
Would you like a sample?
No means no.
I don't need to explain myself. Practice it.
Just always be kind to yourself.
Oh God, I almost said and each other. But yeah, honestly, be kind to yourself, know yourself, love yourself. And
we'll see you next week. Happy Place Friday.